I believe the marathon and the work necessary and the dedication to train up right for a marathon can transform into other aspects of your life. Whether you ever do one again, I do believe it sticks with somebody that can make that journey across the finish line of a marathon.
You can do this job and be healthy in it.
People can actually grow as a result of their struggle.
This podcast shares real stories of transformation and explores what it means to live well through life's challenges.
I'm Britt Myers. Welcome to the Struggle Well podcast. Today, I have the privilege of sitting across from Tony Hofmann, the founder of Team Leadville. Tony, I'm sure there are many who know that term by now, but for those who are not familiar with what Team Leadville is, what you're all about, can you give us a little background and definition on that?
Sure can, Britt. Thanks for the opportunity. Great to see you again, talk to you in person this time, or I guess virtually in person, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Team Leadville, very quick synopsis. Team Leadville is an high-altitude, all-volunteer running team with a unified mission to stop veteran suicide. Annually, we run the Leadville Trail Marathon or Heavy Half, 15.5-mile race. We have one team with two of the events that we compete in. That goes to 13,185 feet in Colorado's highest incorporated city, and then to Mosquito Pass. We choose that race for a variety of reasons, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Since 2015, when we started, we've raised $739,000 and saved over 400 lives. We are not a nonprofit by design, and we support great nonprofits like the Boulder Crest Foundation because we believe we don't need more veteran nonprofits. We need to support the great veteran nonprofits that are there. And yours specifically helps achieve our mission of stopping veteran suicide.
Thank you for doing that first and getting us on the right page here. And I didn't mean to demean you at all by not mentioning your other title of Chief Motivation Officer, which you do so well. Yeah. I know I've felt motivated. I've been running a little more around my neighborhood, regular altitude, though. I don't have that same Leadville distance and height at my backyard, but yeah. You're good.
Be careful, Britt. We may sign you up for the upcoming years, so I'll be chatting with you about that.
Hey, it's a hard maybe for me.
well, I've heard hard maybes before, and they eventually
they're on
cave.
the team right
Yes,
now. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. And I did want to mention, because you're kind of in active recovery right now from another really notable race, and that would be the Boston Marathon. You're not new to that. You've done that a few times, but you did go with your daughter for the first time this year. So how are you feeling? How was that event?
It was a tremendous 130th running of the Boston Marathon, which I consider the world's greatest race. It is the gold standard for marathoning. And what a privilege to start with our daughter, who quickly took off after that, and I didn't see her for the rest of the race, which was expected. What a privilege and honor, not only to run that race, but to run it with our daughter. My wife and I ran it together. Susan ran it in 2009, 2010. My 16th time. It never gets old, and it's just a privilege and honor to be able to do it at the most historic race, marathon in the world, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really special. And I love how much you bring in your family. I know that's a big component of Team Leadville too, which we'll get into. But just focusing back on you for a second, you the individual, we also skated over the fact that you're a veteran yourself and have served. And thank you so much for doing that. And I'm just curious, what inspired you to go down that path? What part of the country are you from? Do you come from a line of service? Kind of the background of what took you into the military.
Sure. Grew up in rural Minnesota, Bruton, Minnesota. Very proud of that. Population 720, high school graduating class 34. My father had served for, I think it was 8.5 years as an enlisted soldier, E7, made E7 as a sergeant first class. So it was in the family, but it really wasn't talked about that much, not because it was ignored. It wasn't probably the defining factor of, hey, have you considered the military? I eventually joined really to try to put myself through college. I enlisted prior to high school graduation, what was called the delayed entry program. So my junior year in high school, I signed up knowing that I would do basic training and join the military after graduation from high school. But that was the impetus for me, was to try to put myself through college on what was then a 2-year enlistment. And We can talk a little bit more about that. It ended up staying in for 26 years active duty and eventually going the officer route in a really circuitous route for me. So, yeah.
We should definitely talk more
Yeah,
about that. How 2 years became 26 feels
sure.
like an important thread to pull.
Yeah.
Yeah, just walk me through how that happened and what that experience was like for you once you actually were in.
Yeah, sure. Britt, I think I would summarize my kind of journey, and I can go into my parents' background and things if we want to go down that path as well, because I think it
Yeah.
matters. It matters where I came from. Um, Pretty humble roots, but my father was a Depression era baby, and times were tough. He ended up enlisting in the military just after post World War II, and he had met my mother, who was a German national. So my mother grew up in World War II. Again, she was a 10 to 12-year-old in the early 1940s. Her father was actually killed by an American soldier. He was a
Mm.
German soldier, and they eventually, my mother and father eventually met after that in Germany, and my father came back to his hometown in Bruton, Minnesota, started a automatic transmission, um, small business that is still in business today since 1954. In fact, the owner purchased it, from my father and mother when I was probably in 7th or 8th grade, and their son now runs it, but it's probably one of the longest tenured transmission shops in Minnesota for sure, if not the United States. My mother was also an entrepreneur. She ran what would be the equivalent of a Dairy Queen early in her time in Bruton, Minnesota. Eventually sold it so she could help raise my sister, who's 2 years older, Anita, and I. But really, entrepreneurship, which I never really gave it that much credit for until kind of looking at it the last 10 years. To have a small business that's still in play 70 years later is pretty amazing now on
Mhm.
the private sector to see that. But again, back to the military piece, enlisted and knew I was going in after high school graduation. While you've got the basic training portion that you do right away, and then what's called advanced individual training. I did that as a communications enlisted soldier at Fort Gordon, Georgia. While I was there, on my own volition, went to the education center along with a Army reservist out of Cleveland. I know you know that area pretty well,
Yes.
and we talked, and he said, "Hey, we should go to the military academy prep school." And I knew what the military academy was because my best friend from high school got put on a waiting list after graduation. He ended up going ROTC at North Dakota State University. So I had heard of West Point, but I didn't even know they had a prep school. I applied, went to my first duty station then at Fort Riley, Kansas. The other person from Cleveland went his way, never saw him again, and somehow was accepted into the preparatory school for West Point. From there, after 1 year, earned an appointment through a senator from Minnesota, Senator Arlen Stanglin. I think the message there, though, is what an opportunity, and it really tells about the opportunity that you have, not only in the military but in America. I mean, small town Minnesota, no political ties, end up somehow getting into the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. You know, one of the really the premier schools in the nation. From there, Britt, variety of assignments, learned our craft. I went to Germany just after the wall came down in Berlin. And went to Ranger School. I don't want to minimize that. Went to Ranger School after engineer school at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. That's a story in itself. I got recycled twice. A lot of grit, a lot of toughness to get through Ranger School. Made it, and then went to Germany and served there. Really learned the craft of combat engineering, supporting the maneuver folks on the ground, the infantry, armor, etc. I chose engineers because I wanted to be close to the ground troops, but I also wanted, quite frankly, a skill that would last maybe beyond the military whenever that would occur. And the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was a great fit for me. Um, Continued on the career, went to the various schools, worked my way up, and as you may know, as an officer in the U.S. Army, it's up or out, so it's a fairly competitive atmosphere. to lead, but the biggest thing is to lead America's sons and daughters, which is the biggest privilege. That
Mhm.
eventually landed in multiple combat tours along the way. Also, my wife, Susan, we'll be married 31 years here. Also,
Woo!
she was an active duty member for 10 years as an Army nurse and did 2 years, in reserve time as well, so 12 years total time. Um, as the Iraq war was kind of kicking off, we made the family decision that, hey, we probably can't both do this, and she totally supported me staying in. Um, at the time, we had one child. Our second child, Abby, who ran the Boston Marathon with me, was born while I was in a 14-month tour in Iraq. And as you know, the military can be pretty challenging. Our oldest son, Nate, 4 years older, eventually, obviously finished the combat deployment, came back, did a variety of more assignments, and then eventually, was accepted into kind of the non-tactical path with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on the Army Corps district. It's called the district side, where you're really leading, a few soldiers, but also, mainly Department of the Army civilians. So really focused on military construction, design, dams and levees, waterways, and things like that. So, very lucky to be able to do both the tactical side and then the kind of non-tactical that's very important for the economy of our country and the world, quite frankly, on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers side, and for the design of barracks, headquarters, etc., that help keep our nation strong for the military that we support. And ended up here in Kansas City, where I reside. And my last assignment was a commander of the Kansas City District, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, long time ago, and then eventually transitioned out at the rank of Army Colonel. So that's a
Yes.
very quick way to put the 26 years into play and let you take it from here on this, Britt.
Yeah. And that's it. That's all we have. I'm
No,
just kidding. Yeah. No, I'm sorry to put you in a position to go through 26 years so
that's good.
quickly, but you've clearly told this before because you did a great job of kind of giving us a high level overview of what that looked like. And I didn't know you had gone and gotten your Ranger tab. We must have not gone over that the last time that you and I talked. So just
Sure.
kudos on all the work that you did. And I know something that you'd mentioned before that really stood out to you that you were proud of was the work you did with the Corps of Engineers. And so I'd love if you want to deep dive on that a little bit more, especially because that was kind of the ending of your career there in
Yeah,
Kansas.
again, as an engineer officer, there's various paths that the Army will really assign you. Sometimes you have a little bit of choice or not. In this case, most of my time in my early part of my officer career was on the tactical side, and that's really where you learn your craft with the, again, infantry, armor, and ground troops, and sometimes fighting as infantry, as which my unit did in Iraq in an engineer battalion. Battalion's about roughly 700 soldiers, for context for your audience.
Mhm.
Um, on the Army Corps side, I was fortunate, and not self-serving, but was selected for a Army Lieutenant Colonel command and was in Walla Walla, Washington. So think the Columbia Snake River dams and all of the things associated with hydropower, fish passage, and really navigation along the Columbia and Snake River. So big mission, really exposed me to a different side of the Army Corps of Engineers and the more technical side. I never have said I'm a technical expert, but it was truly a privilege to learn from the great Department of the Army civilians that uh, primarily make up most of the Army Corps of Engineers. There's about 700 or so military officers in the Army Corps of Engineers on that side, and probably over 30,000 Department of the Army technical civilians in the 40 plus Army Corps districts. Back to a few years later, after Walla Walla, was privileged to go to one of the Army, they call them war colleges or senior service colleges, in Washington D.C. For me and our family, and then was assigned to the Kansas City District of the Army Corps. I think what you're alluding to, I was there from it's a 3-year tour of duty from 2010 to 2013. 2011 became a very tumultuous time. The Joplin tornado hit in May, I think it was May 22nd of 2011, and the district was called in to work for FEMA, but really for the folks of Joplin, Missouri, and Duquesne, in the fourth worst tornadic event in the history of the nation. 162 people perished, unfortunately, in a Torrey 2-mile wide by 6-mile swath on an EF5 tornado through Joplin. Quite frankly, have never seen anything like that of the magnitude in combat or since Joplin. So we got called into that mission, and then, oh, by the way, about a month later, while we were doing that mission, the Big Muddy, the Missouri River, she got out of control, and we had a 155-day flood fight in then the worst conditions in the Missouri River Basin at the time in 2011. So really fighting two kind of domestic emergency management operations at the same time, and had the privilege to lead the Kansas City, then the Kansas City district at the time with that. But it was a tumultuous time. Just to put it in context for Joplin, in 3 months, the great folks from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, led by then the Kansas City district, eliminated 1.7 million cubic yards of debris. So it's a football field as high as the Eiffel Tower. Put in 346 temporary houses, 8 temporary schools, so school could start in the fall for the kids in the Joplin, Duquesne area, and also 3 temporary fire stations to get their community back into operation in a very tough event. And then with the Missouri River, it took about a year and a half to replace 155 levees that were essentially destroyed due to the heavy flooding on the Missouri River. So
Wow.
that was probably I wouldn't say the highlight, but a pretty stressful situation to go through. Privilege to come out on the other end and to have the privilege to lead then the Kansas City district through those events. But it takes a team, not one person, to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you went through
Yeah,
that because it's commendable, the work that you all did and was a big
yeah,
portion of your life, right?
yeah.
So
It sure
it's
was.
worth pausing
Yeah,
to take a time to go through that. And being from Ohio, we don't have quite that same story about the Missouri River, but we do have our own rivers catching
yeah.
on fire and things of that nature,
But Britt, I
which
do
is so
want for you and your audience to know any gray hairs I have came from 2011. Okay, so
yeah, good to
uh,
note.
it was jet black before that.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Mine came from my kids in 2016 and
No, I got you.
2019.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I
I think it just
understand.
keeps going from here.
Yes.
Well, has your town named the high school after you yet, or is that something we can expect to happen
Oh, no,
in the
no,
near future?
I would hope not. I'm still keeping contact with folks in Bruton, Minnesota. Again, it's part of me, always will be, and it was a great place to grow up.
Aw,
Yeah,
yeah, I love that. Well, we'll come back to the family aspect, but I want to hone in on the running side because
yeah.
obviously that is a major theme here of Team Leadville. Was running something that you got into just naturally through the military, knowing that it's part of PT, that's really like part of the military culture, or when did it become something for you that was beyond just maybe regular health and fitness?
Yeah, Britt, it was more, not because I didn't like running, where in Bruton, we didn't have a lot of extra sports, so it was football, basketball, baseball, maybe track. We didn't have a cross country team. They had a track team for the spring, but no cross country. I was always kinda enthralled by the marathon, but not enough to do one, and again, we're talking back in the, early to mid 1980s. I graduated in 1984, so the running piece, took off kinda in the '70s a little bit in the US, but not across the nation. I'd say the running piece started after graduation from West Point, and I went to what's called the Officer Basic Course at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, linked up with another colleague or lieutenant in the Army, and his parents had run a few marathons, and he had run a marathon before, and we said, "Hey, let's do a marathon while we're here in school." So we signed up for the Marine Corps Marathon in November of 1990. One of the first Marine Corps
Okay.
marathons, actually. So a long time ago, and that race is still, now it fills very quickly, but at the time, it was one of the first few years. So we did it, trained for it, but not to the training that now that you know what you're really supposed to do. Um,
Mhm.
we ran it and did what almost all first-time marathoners do, went way too fast, and the wheels came off around mile 18 or 19, and we held on and finished, but, certainly not a fun finish, and said I'll probably never do one of those things again in my time.
Yeah, you're like,
So,
that's
yep,
enough for me.
yep,
Mhm.
yep. So we did that, and then kind of a couple years later, got the bug while I was in Germany. One of my senior non-commissioned officers in the unit I was in had run a lot of marathons, and he kind of mentored me a little bit. We ran a lot there, and then picked it up again and started marathoning back in the early 1990s, and really now here 36 years later have just continued to do the marathon and somewhat ultra piece, but mainly marathons. At one point kind of had a unwritten goal of, hey, maybe I can do one per year since 1990. And with Boston's finish a week ago Monday, a week ago today, I'm at 57 and not really counting to get 100 or anything, but I guess I've kind of achieved that of doing a marathon a year since I really started. And it was really, again, not a hard and fast goal, but I've just kind of hung with it over the years. As our son Nate calls me, a professional enthusiast on the run. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wait, and also I'm not good at math, which I already told you. How's 1990 to 2026 equal that many marathons?
Well, it just adds up. It's about one and a half a year on average.
Hmm,
Again, no goal to do 100 or anything like that. A lot of people wanna do that, and
yeah.
maybe it will be in the cards later, but it just kinda worked out that way, and you go through cycles of maybe 1 a year, maybe 2 or 3 a year, it really depends, but I've hung with it, and I enjoy the sport. Not every day to enjoy it, but I mean, I enjoy it enough for the process. For me, it's all about the
Yes.
process of going through the training, and then as you kinda age, you learn these different things, and you really forces you to adjust along the way, to make
Mhm.
adjustments along the way, kinda like life. So for me, it's a very selfish sport, so you really gotta fit it in without losing touch of family events and things like that, especially when you have a significant other and maybe kids. I've tried not to let it, take the place of, our children when they were in school events or
Mhm.
events with Susan. So you just try to fit it in, and I think it's made me better on time management and things like that along the way as well when you try to do that.
Yeah. Oh, and that's nice of you as a husband and a dad too. And I told you my brother is a good marathoner, and he
Yeah.
got probably in his best shape when he was in Afghanistan. And he was like, well, selfishly, it was easier to do because he's like, I didn't have any other
Yeah.
responsibilities and I was kind of bored. So he's like, it
Yeah.
was the
Yep.
best time. You're not missing time with your family. And that's something I had written down that you had said was that marathons can be transformational.
Mm.
And I just would love to hear your thoughts on that and why you've said that before.
Yeah, I think, for a variety of reasons, Britt. Again, not everybody, can do a marathon, so it really is a privilege to be able to do that, and for those who really want to, but maybe can't physically, it's very a privilege to be able to do these things. But I do think transformational for a variety of reasons. One, typically less than 1% of the world population will ever do a marathon. Okay, so when you look at the statistics, like, wow, those of us kind of in the marathon mode, you're around groups of runners, you think, hey, everybody's doing this. Well, they're not. So I really think if somebody chooses to do a marathon, the transformational aspect comes from a couple things. I think that the marathon distance of 26.2 miles, it's not something you can fake. You can do a 5K, and no offense to a 5K, 3.1 miles, or a 10K, or maybe even a half marathon, at 13.1. You could probably get through that racing or not just walking it. But a marathon requires a little bit different. It requires a dedication if you don't want to get hurt, especially for folks who are maybe a little bit older, maybe some teens or young 20s can roll out and do one with minimal impact. But I think for most of us, the marathon will put you on a different path of having to do the work and the discipline. I believe most people can do a marathon. Okay, I firmly believe it. I think a lot of people believe they can't. So the transformational aspect is one, if they choose to do it right and do the training and get through that, I believe it leads to different better things in life for them that, "Hey, I could do this. I can do this other thing now that maybe you didn't think you could do." I believe the marathon and the work necessary and the dedication to train up right for a marathon can transform into other aspects of your life. Whether you ever do one again, I do believe it sticks with somebody that can make that journey across the finish line of a marathon.
Is that the idea then, choosing to do it, doing it right, finding a way to push forward, what ended up sparking the creation of Team Leadville, or was there another catalyst for that?
Well, the initial catalyst for Team Leadville was really a challenge to some young junior grade military officers that I knew. I had just departed the military in 2013, and the impetus for Team Leadville came after I'd crossed the finish line in August of 2014 of the Leadville 100. A couple things went through my mind. One, I had a crew, and the crew can't run for you, but it really demonstrated how important the team aspect is. And I wouldn't have gotten through that race without my brother-in-law Tom as the crew chief and other folks in the crew, but really specifically the running portion. Chris Westerman, a guy I mentioned in my first book called Embracing Grit. The first year in 2013, I didn't make it. I got pulled at 60 miles in the Leadville 100, and then came back in 2014. But crossing that finish line in 2014 did a couple things. One, I was like, wow, it's a tough place. I know they've got a marathon. I believe the marathon's transformational. Why not get a team that can start and finish together and push each other and get them to Leadville to run a marathon? I think it'd be a big deal. And in dinner here in Overland Park, Kansas, in October of 2014, some folks from Joint Base Lewis and McChord, Washington came. They were doing an exercise at nearby Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. We had dinner, had a couple beers, and you gotta kind of lubricate people to get them under that mode. And then I threw down a marathon card later after dinner, and a couple of them bought in, a couple of them didn't, but there was enough that bought in. And when they went back to Joint Base Lewis and McChord, they said, "Yeah, we'd like to do that." What I didn't tell them on that October evening was that the venue would be Leadville, the highest incorporated city that sits at 10,152 feet. So after they committed, they didn't have a choice not to. And then through communication of telephone and email, dropped it that, oh, by the way, the race we're going to do is going to be in June of 2015 at the Leadville Trail Marathon. So that it
How
was
Army of you.
yeah, no, it was
That's
well,
so
it was honest. I didn't lie to them, and they committed
Yeah.
to a marathon, but they weren't smart enough to ask which one it was. Um,
Yeah.
so with that was really the start. And then one of our runners, now Army Lieutenant Colonel, active duty Dan Keyser, he was Army captain at the time, came up with the idea of, hey, why don't we donate? Why don't we raise money for a veteran nonprofit of some sort? And I said, "Hey, Dan, that's a great idea. I've got to figure out how to get, four of the seven had never run a marathon before, and they're going to do this in Leadville. I'm the team lead. I'm the person who said, hey, I'll lead this effort." And I was a little concerned of how to figure out how to get, seven people together across the finish line after peaking out at 13,185 feet. So I said, "Hey, Dan, that's great. If you want to take that on, I'll help contribute, but I don't have the time or the patience. I got to figure out how we're going to get seven people across the finish line in Leadville." With that, we did choose a nonprofit. It was more of a policy level nonprofit, a good nonprofit. We raised about $7,500 kind of on a whim.
Yeah.
And after 2015, our first Team Leadville, we didn't even call ourselves Team Leadville at the time. It was called Team Boom or Bust for vets who wanted the boom or bust mentality of the mining community, etc. But after that, not because of it, I had a bad knee and I had microfracture surgery later that fall. I knew it was going to happen. Um, they told me, "Hey, you can run the marathon as long as you can tolerate the pain, but you're going to need surgery." Did that, had a long recovery, and it caused me to really look a little bit more at, hey, I wonder if we should do this again. Here in the Kansas City area, there's a nonprofit that focuses on veteran suicide. At the time, the veteran suicide epidemic was gaining kind of national attention at 22 veterans a day committing suicide. And I had some not close friends, but colleagues I knew that had committed suicide. And it really kind of I was really kind of upset that 22 push-ups a day wasn't doing it. We've got to do better. So I latched on to the local nonprofit that had a track record of success, and that's really what spurred Team Leadville year two. And we continued on with only 6 runners, in 2016, did it and raised about 15,000, almost $16,000. So we doubled it.
Double.
Um, we continued on, and I'll tell you the year that really changed everything for Team Leadville was 2017. We had our largest group ever of, I think it was 12. And in fact, that team is on the Team Leadville Founders coin that I give to every runner that crosses the finish line, because that team really transformed it and showed that we could get 12 runners. It was the third straight year, and we raised over $35,000 due to the great donors and supporters of doing this. So, really, a grassroots campaign that we thought would only be one and done just kind of grew, and it wasn't because of me. It was because of our donors and supporters, and Britt, they are the fuel for Team Leadville, but the engine for Team Leadville is our runners who sign up to train, to commit funding to Team Leadville, etc. You combine those two, and it's a powerful factor. And here we are going into year 12, going to support the Boulder Crest Foundation. We're going to have a big year. It's gonna be awesome. It is.
I know, I can't wait. And
Yeah.
using your own car analogy, I think following that thread, your family would then be the car, because you've made this really a family affair in every way. And I love that you always pause and celebrate your sister Anita and your brother-in-law, your wife, your kids, who've all really stepped into and made this bigger than just a race or a running event or whatever terminology we try to apply to things like this. But I want to give a moment, too, for you to share more of how your family has gotten involved beyond the donors, supporters, and runners who we also commend.
No, thanks, Brittany. They are an important piece for a variety of reasons. Let me talk to my immediate family. My wife Susan has done the Leadville Marathon. We did it in 2020, and we weren't flaunting, the pandemic. Um, Pretty impressive that Team Leadville. We made a team decision. All the races were canceled in 2020. Should we continue? It wasn't a matter of flaunting. Hey, we want to, don't wear masks or anything like that. Our decision was based on, we believed that the isolation of the pandemic would actually make it worse for veterans. So we decided as a team to do virtual races across the US, with about 6 or 7 of us actually getting on the course in Leadville. And about 50 people, road runners, showed up in Leadville that day,
Wow.
to include the founder of the Leadville Race Series, my good friend and legend Ken Klober and Marilee Maupin, with the traditional shotgun start. They showed up as a bunch of rogue runners, along with the founder of the Leadville 100 and the Leadville Race Series, and really the queen of Leadville, Marilee Maupin. So Susan's completed it. Our son Nate has done 2 Leadville marathons with us. In fact, I have to get this comment in 2017. He was a teenager, and his comment after crossing was, "Dad, I don't think it's worth the hype. I don't think it was that hard." Okay, so that kind of hurt my feelings a little bit, but you got young legs, you can do that sort of thing. Our daughter Abby, who I talked about, she did the heavy half. She's doing the marathon this year, and our youngest, probably the best runner of the group, Kate, has yet to do it, but probably maybe in the future, and I'll let her make that decision. But so really, the immediate family. But she has been out there. Kate has been out there. So everyone has been out on that course by their own volition, not me prompting them. Back to my sister, Anita, and brother-in-law, Tom. They are the secret spice to Team Leadville. They host all the runners and families at their home in Littleton, Colorado, the night prior to the race. And they also set up a post-race cookout in Leadville following the race. And that camaraderie really is a difference maker for Team Leadville. It gets us together really for the first time, because we've got runners from all 4 time zones, and people get to meet each other the night before, and it really becomes a bit of a bonding aspect of Team Leadville. Then we run the marathon or heavy half together, finish together, cross the finish line together, and then celebrate that achievement, mimicking the Warrior's journey, which we'll talk about, on a very tough race, and then celebrating the commitment to now Boulder Crest, and the commitment to each other in a post-race cookout. So within a day and a half, it's jam-packed with Team Leadville, but my family, they're the ones who add that secret spice to Team Leadville. It really is a differentiator in what Team Leadville is.
I love it, and I'm glad
Yep.
we paused to do that. And also, how is Kate the best runner in your family, and your daughter Abby, you just said, is churning out 7-minute miles at Boston.
Well,
I mean,
Kate's a D3 Division III soccer player in your state in Wilmington, Ohio. Doing great. So all are athletes, and then some have found, not being runners before, have found that running bug afterwards to maybe remain, I don't know, you'd have to ask them, but remain
yeah.
competitive in something with their athletic prowess that they had in soccer, or in our son's case, cross country, and have kind of kept that alive in the case of long distance running. Yeah.
I'm also gonna say good genetics, but
Yeah.
yes.
Well, then it
Yeah.
takes after their mom, then that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, you had mentioned the warrior's journey or the hero's journey. And tell me how you've seen that mirrored while you're part of Team Leadville.
Yeah. I'm not a mental health expert. Let's say that from the get go. Um, I understand the veteran challenge of suicide. It's 2 times more likely, veterans are 2 times more likely to commit suicide than the average population. Um, but I'm not a mental health expert. I don't do what the Boulder Crest Foundation does to help heal. I believe our best contribution can be to help fund the professionals that you have for the Warrior Path program and other programs. Okay, so I don't want to be very clear. Um, I've chosen that I think this is the best way we can achieve our mission of stopping veteran suicide. Um, but I think a couple things that are important. The hero's journey. I think, folks choose to go into your program. They've got to make that choice on their own, and that requires, a lot of guts,
Yeah.
to make that decision. And then assumption is through your community, it's a bonding community that help each other through it. Um, we're not, we don't solely, replicate that process, but we choose the Leadville Marathon and Heavy Half to have a difficult journey with the tenets of endurance, teamwork, and grit, which I think are the same type of tenets that are necessary for the men and women that go into the Warrior Path program. So we really want our runners to replicate that journey in a very hard event, to really understand, hey, we want to feel for the folks who are choosing to go into the Warrior Path program and other programs in Boulder Crest. That's what I mean by the hero's journey. They've made that decision. We help fund those decisions to get them into the program that they then make the choice to go into. But we also want to replicate it with our run, that, hey, we want to be thinking about more than just ourselves on this run. We want to think about the heroes and heroines that are going through your program. So we really want to embrace the endurance, teamwork, and grit aspect that I think is necessary to overcome post-traumatic stress through your PTG program, post-traumatic growth
Mhm.
program.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing the strength through the struggle out there,
Yep.
right? In real life.
Yep.
And that's kind of my follow-up question for you is what led you to choose Boulder Crest Foundation as the beneficiary this year of those fundraising efforts, which we're so grateful for and pleased to be part of.
Yeah, big decision for us. This will be the third nonprofit that Team Leadville has supported. But to be honest, there's a couple things. One, the professionalism. Not that all the nonprofits we've supported. When we put our name against a nonprofit, we vet them. We look at
Yeah.
Charity Navigator. We want the funds to go directly to program. I get it. There's an overhead piece, and Boulder Crest has been great about saying, hey, the funds that we provide are going to go to the program. So there's never been any issue with that. We've always kind of vetted the nonprofit because, to be honest, Britt, I've been a board chair of a nonprofit before. There can be some very not so good nonprofits out there, and we take our reputation, our personal reputation. We're going to ask donors to support Team Leadville. I take that very serious. So really vetting, but your program, the fact that you've got now 4 brick and mortar locations across the U.S. in Virginia, Texas, Arizona, and now rural Wyoming that's being built. Um, your growth pattern. Look, I know bigger is not always better, but you're on a growth pattern, and I feel like Team Leadville is too. I personally, as a founder of Team Leadville, I really needed to join an organization that had the same kind of enthusiasm and growth mindset that we have as Team Leadville. It's not about me, but um, And I saw that in Boulder Crest, in the Boulder Crest Foundation. I'd actually met with Josh Goldberg. He took the time, it would probably be 4 years ago, where he took a half hour of his time, and the question you might ask is, "Well, why were you doing that if you were supporting another nonprofit?" Because I always wanted a backup plan, and I've been watching other great nonprofits in your field, and there are 3 of them that I highly recommend in addition, or 2 others in addition to the Boulder Crest Foundation, if asked, that are doing some great work with respect to, overcoming post-traumatic stress. So there are other great nonprofits, but we chose Boulder Crest because of the growth, because of your brick and mortar facilities, and because how your board is run professionally, because we're putting our reputation on the line to support the nonprofit. That's really
Yes.
what turned us, and really excited about this partnership here, year 1, and, hopefully
Us
beyond.
too.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly. And we couldn't be more grateful for that. And just for, like you said, there's so many these moments of connection between what the participants are experiencing as part of Team Leadville and what they experience through our programs. And having that similar goal of just saying, like, enough is enough with veteran suicide. Like, we can't just keep saying, okay, well, it's 22 a day and that's really sad, but I'll do my push ups and try to raise awareness. And that's great.
yeah.
But there's real tangible results that can come from the work that we're doing. And so I just thank you so much for helping to make that possible. And I'm curious because you've seen so many different teams as part of Team Leadville and so many different dynamics
Yeah.
and groups of runners, which I kind of shocked me when we first met, that I just sort of assumed everyone were these veteran marathoners or maybe at least had been to Leadville before. And that's not the case, which is, again, like another really good example of the authenticity and people that just really want to be part of something bigger than themselves. But what excites you about this team? What can you tell us
Yeah,
about this
every
year's?
team is a cast of characters, Britt, and I say that in a
Yeah.
totally respectful manner. I mean, I could go name by name because I've talked to every one of them. What's neat about this team, and all the teams are great, so I wanna, say that.
Yeah.
First off, so last year we had 38 total runners, which was our largest ever. This year we've got 43. We'll have 21 doing the marathon and 22 doing the heavy half, so it's our most balanced team for both of those. And again, we come together at the end as both the heavy half and the marathon team based on the staggered start time, which is pretty cool to do. But I
And we
think
have one
what's
of our own, right? Not to interrupt
you
you, but
you do.
isn't
Yep,
yeah.
yep. Ashley Ayler is part of it with the heavy half. Been working with her on she hears way too much from me. I'm sure she's like, I've heard
She
enough from
loves
this
it.
guy. No, it's awesome. But a very balanced team. The other neat part, I think, is a lot of folks think, hey, you're all veterans. Nope. In fact, over half of our team this year is not veterans, and
Yeah,
that's a
it's amazing.
powerful thing for a variety of reasons. One, this isn't just a veteran only piece. Two, it exposes the non-veterans to the veteran challenges, and they can advocate for, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know veterans have 2 times more likely to commit suicide, et cetera. Plus, veterans comprise about 7% of the US population. 93% have never served. And I don't say that negatively, but it's great that we've got a lot of non-veterans on our team because it really is a good litmus, or it's what the American population's like, and it exposes them to different things. So it's a collection of veterans, non-veterans, et cetera. The other thing I'll say is, Team Leadville is an equal opportunity sufferfest regardless of gender, race, or anything else, because we're all gonna have to suffer going up and down Mosquito Pass, and, that's part of the fun, okay, associated with it. Is it's an equal opportunity sufferfest along the way.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
The other like common denominator I've seen, because I've had the privilege of having a few conversations with some members of the team this year, is which, by the way, we'll be releasing those
it's
on the
great.
Border Crest website and through Lifetime Fitness, who is the primary sponsor. Maybe, right? Is it there? Is Lifetime
Lifetime
Fitness the?
Fitness, yeah, they own the race series. They do. Yep, Lifetime
Yeah.
Fitness owns the Leadville race series. You're right.
Okay, awesome. So they're helping us share some of
Yep.
those stories too. But in my conversations with the participants, beyond just their excitement for being part of it. Some of them more excited than others. Some of them a little bit healthy nerves, right? And just like, hopefully it goes well. Is they all really have support from their families, and I think that's just like such a beautiful connector back to what started Team Leadville, and like we were just saying about your own family and how everybody's kind of in this together. Is it does take a lot. It takes a lot to train. It takes a lot to prepare. It takes a lot to be away from your families, and they're all willing to do it for a really good cause and for themselves too. But I think that's been really powerful to see is just the spouses and the kids and how excited they are for their family member.
Yeah, Britt, I wanna expand on that just a tad. I think it's
Yeah.
important. Our runners are some of the most tremendous individuals in part of Team Live, just tremendous human beings. We're asking them to do a lot of things. I'm asking them to, as the founder, when I talk to them, I say, I want you to know what you're signing up for. You're signing up for either the 15.5-mile heavy half or the marathon. Okay, that's a big commitment in itself. Also, our expectation is each runner to solicit at least $2,000 worth of donations. Now, we're not going to take it out of your credit card, but I'd say that this is what the expectation is for Team Leadville. We're asking them to get to and from Colorado on their own dime. We're asking them to train for probably 16 weeks for a marathon, maybe 12 weeks for a heavy half. In addition to, most of them have families. Almost all of them are working full time. Um, very few are retired. So we're asking a huge commitment from our runners. That's why I say they are the engine to Team Leadville. Without the runners, we got nothing. And without our tremendous donors and supporters who I mean, it amazes me that we're doing this in year 12. And our two questions that we ask ourselves every year, because I can't tell you we're going to do this in 2027. I think we will, but I let the runners and the donors make that decision really. The two questions we ask ourselves every year after is, one, are we making a difference? And two, are we having fun? If the answer to any one of those is no, Team Leadville will probably be no more. So,
Mhm.
um, the runners are just tremendous individuals that are doing this in their dedication to the cause.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
glad that you mentioned that. And that's the thing is it's been 12 years.
yeah,
Looking back on those 12 years and all of these moments that you've had, over 400 lives
yeah.
impacted, hundreds of thousands of dollars raised. What are you most proud of with Team Leadville today? And could you even maybe pinpoint one thing?
Yeah, I think it's the legacy of saving lives. I mean, at the end of the day, it's bigger than ourselves. I think if you asked our runners who've done it before and come back, not all come back. Some do, some don't. Some are one and done. Some have had enough. I've had enough of Mosquito Pass, and that's fine. But I think whenever this run ends, we're going to look back and say, "Hey, we made a positive difference in the lives of veterans and help them overcome post traumatic stress by doing what we're doing." I think that alone is what our legacy is. The other piece, more on the personal side, it's been fun watching. Our primary mission is to stop veteran suicide and first responder, because a lot of veterans are first responders as well,
Yep.
or first responders are veterans. Um, I think for me, as now an aging runner, 36 years doing the marathon thing, it's it's really fulfilling for me to watch folks make that transformation that maybe they haven't done a marathon or haven't done a marathon at altitude or a heavy half and say, I've really got a questions. Can I make this? Can I do this? Can I make it? And then see them achieve it because we'll get them across the finish line. They come ready. The team, we will get you across the finish line together as one. Um, that is a lot of fun for me to watch somebody who maybe um, didn't think they could do it or had in the back of their mind, can I do this? That they can achieve that, and that will stay with them a lot longer than you know crossing that finish line after race day.
As it did with you, your own
Yeah, yep,
personal
that's right.
experience, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
And we sort of skipped over this, so I wanted to take a chance to go back to it real quick. And that was kind of the historical relevance or
Yeah.
significance of Leadville itself. And don't want to put you too much on the spot to give us a
Oh,
history
that's
lesson
great.
by any means, but I would love
No,
to just
easy.
fill people
No,
in.
it's great. Leadville is the right venue for us for a variety of reasons. First, highest incorporated city in the U.S., 10,152 feet is where it sits. And then you've got different races. The Leadville 100 goes to Hope Pass at 12,600 feet. The marathon goes on a different course to Mosquito Pass at 13,185 feet. So we're not talking for the faint of heart here. You're talking at starting at 10,152 up to 13,000 feet. Okay. And it's 2.5 times, 2.5 miles high. So it's not for the faint of heart. Second, Leadville has a boomer bust mentality with first the gold rush, then the silver rush. At one point, Leadville had about over 50 to 80,000 people in the late 1800s. Now it's
Wow.
about 2,500 people. So the history of the U.S. and mining, it's got the National Mining Museum there. So the grittiness, the toughness of the wilderness folks trying to make it big, boom or bust, is kind of a unique atmosphere. I mean, dignitaries used to visit Leadville. It's got the oldest Opry House west of the Mississippi River. President U.S. Grant visited there, and other dignitaries back when Leadville was going to be considered the capital of Colorado. And then you've got the military component of nearby Camp Hale, which is a tremendous piece, and it really fits into to us. Back in the early 1940s, Camp Hale was started by the U.S. Army. It became the 10th Mountain Division, which is now at Fort Drum, New York. But through that, folks like Kansas Senator Bob Dole, um, also a variety of famous people went and trained at Camp Hale specifically for the Italian campaign, high altitude for World War II. Um, the one of the founders of Nike trained there as well. One of the great coaches, Bill Bowerman, for the University of Oregon, was one of those soldiers as well. And the other piece is a lot of those soldiers, in particular at Vail, came back and founded the ski industry in Colorado. So veterans doing entrepreneurial things after. In fact, the one who founded Vail was a staff sergeant who was wounded pretty badly, and eventually they said, "Hey, you will never ski again." Became a world-class skier even after the injury, but helped found the ski industry in Colorado. So all those linkages, and then the fact that the Leadville 100 started in 1983, which really kicked off the Leadville Race Series, and my good friend Ken Klober and Marilee Maupin still there. Um, all of that legacy comes into Team Leadville, and we weave that all in. So Leadville is the right spot for Team Leadville and what we're trying to achieve to stop veteran and first responder suicide.
Yes, no doubt it's the perfect place for
Yep.
Team Leadville, and I so appreciate you taking the time to
Yep.
walk through that, and I know people will find that super interesting just like I did. I do wanna give time for you to share anything that we didn't cover that you think would be important for somebody watching this or listening to this to know, and whether that's how they could get involved or support
Yeah.
or just come cheer you guys on.
Yeah, I'll say a couple things, Britt. I think one, as a veteran, something I've kind of found after leaving the military 13 years ago, a long time ago, I probably didn't give the military total credit for the physical and mental challenges that go on with a full military career. I'm not complaining, but now being on the kind of in the private sector, you see that it can be a challenging life that we choose to do. So shout out to the veterans who have served. Second, I want to give kudos to the families that are unsung heroes really in this. Not only the spouses, male or female, or the children of military members, but I mean, again, our oldest daughter was born when I was gone. I was on
Mhm.
deployment, and you don't shrug those things off. But on the same token, duty calls, and that's what we sign up for. But it is a bit of more challenging, and I think the rest of the population understands that. But it needs to be stated once in a while of the sacrifices of our military members. Back to Team Leadville, I think the biggest thing I would ask your listeners is, one, hey, if you can donate, great. Okay, if not, please be an advocate for what we're doing through your social media channels. Our campaign will be from the 25th of May through the 27th of June, which is race day. We keep it to a 5-week window, and our goal is $175,000. It's an audacious goal. We're going to hit that goal. We're going to hit it because your supporters are going to help us hit it. My supporters and each of our other 42 runners, their folks and their network is going to do it. We're not a big name. I wish we were. We're not. We've always been grassroots. We're making a difference, and this is how we roll. And this is the legacy of Team Leadville. Again, back to the engine. It's our runners, but the fuel, our donors and supporters. So I think get involved. A lot of people say, I want to help veterans. This is the opportunity. This is one opportunity of maybe many, but we're inviting you to be part of the Team Leadville family without having to run. Okay, you don't have to
Yeah.
go to 13,185. We'll do the running for you. But that's what I would say. The other thing is, I've got 3 books out there on Amazon. First one called Embracing Grit, about the Leadville 100 and that journey. Second one is about Team Leadville, called Endurance, Teamwork, and Grit, Team Leadville's Relentless Push to Stop Veteran Suicide. And that's really about how you start and maintain all volunteer teams here on year 12. And the last one is Rim to Rim to Rim on a Whim, an endurance junkie's guide to the Grand Canyon. That really is, don't wait for perfect conditions to do something big. If you're going to wait for perfect conditions, you'll never do it. So just do it. But all of those embrace grit, endurance, teamwork, and grit along the way. And that's what I tell you. But for your listeners, we could use your help, and we would value your help. Be part of the Team Leadville family, supporting the Boulder Crest Foundation.
Couldn't say it better
Yeah.
myself. And I so appreciate you and this conversation. It's been so fun to talk to you and get to know you even over these last few months. And it's really been an honor too to meet the runners who are a part of the team this year, and just get to hear more of their why, which is, I'm so excited to share that too, because there's so much heart and passion for the veteran first responder community. And that really comes through. So I'm just grateful to you for making that connection and for allowing me to be a small part of it. And I'm just so excited to see everybody toe that line on June 27th. And you've done a good plug. Like you had said, I would encourage people to check out your books on Amazon. If they want to learn more about the Team Leadville event itself or Boulder Crest, they can do both at bouldercrest.org. So Tony, thank you so much for who you are, all that you've done, and the impact that you're continuing to have on so many.
Well, Britt, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your veteran as a Army brat. Not an easy path. I listened to you on podcasts that Josh Goldberg was doing the interview for you, and I appreciate Ashley Ayler. She's been tremendous. She's going to be one of our runners in the heavy half, and we've been coordinating a lot for this campaign, a lot behind the scenes, and she's been tremendous for the Boulder Crest Foundation. We're excited. I'm excited. I mean,
Yes.
I'm ramping up, so I had to get through Boston first, but now I am all in, and I was all in anyway. But now, as I
Mhm.
told the runners, you're going to hear a lot from me, probably too much. So we're excited. We got 42 runners in addition to myself. We're excited. We're excited to support the Boulder Crest Foundation. It's really reinvigorating to help us achieve our mission to stop veteran first responder suicide. And Britt, appreciate you. Appreciate what you do for advocacy and everything for Boulder Crest Foundation. So thank you all. Yeah,
Yes, thank you. Can't wait to see you again soon.
absolutely. Thanks.